Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pen to Paper. Today I have David Benjamin, who is the author of Traceback, your first fiction novel, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because you did write one nonfiction, which you can showcase both right now if you'd like.
Sure.
Sure.
The first book actually reissued as Cracking Complexity Now, post-pandemic. This was just before the pandemic, and that's the nonfiction business world side of me.
Yeah.
And then my long dreamed of first novel, Traceback, which
Hmm.
I finally got to in the last couple of years.
Yes, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about Traceback.
So I have spent most of my life in a space that's too hard to explain, but basically as a consultant is the easiest way to label it.
Hmm.
Working with some of the largest companies in the world on some of their most vexing, complex challenges, and that's where the book Cracking Complexity came from. But since high school, as some of my friends recently told me, I always talked about wanting to be an author ultimately.
Mm.
So I sort of put that on hold, had my career, still have some of my career going on, but decided it was time to write the book. And we can talk later about sort of what the specific impetus was now.
For sure.
But I got to it. And so I'm living this great life right now as sort of one foot in the world I've been in, really enjoying the work I'm doing there, and the other foot in this new adventure space, writing fiction.
That's amazing. Well, let's kind of get into it right away with Traceback. What inspired you to write Traceback? And it's kind of it's an interesting bridge of you in your Amazon tagline. It's historical fiction, speculative fiction, medical thriller. Like, how did that all come together?
So I'll try to try to explain this
I
quickly.
know it's a lot.
It's really interesting to me. I don't know if it's interesting to everyone else, but I was coming out of my, as I said, full time career. We'd written the book. I was a contributor for Forbes, so went into the pandemic, did a ton of writing from a complexity point of view about what was unfolding with the pandemic. Had a great time.
Mm.
My daughters looked at me at some point and said, "You're really enjoying this pandemic, aren't you?" And I sort of, because it
Oh,
was a chance to step back and really start observing the world.
that's right.
And around the same time, because things were slowing down and we were doing face-to-face events, um, I started paying attention to my father, who was at the time, I guess, early to mid 80s, had been diagnosed with early onset dementia. And he had been working for at least a decade to get his thoughts on paper about God, the universe, and me. That was the name of the book he was working on. And with the diagnosis of early onset dementia, he was starting to really struggle with like finishing the job of telling that story. And so I decided, I set aside, I was being asked by an Indian CEO who had read Cracking Complexity and loved it. He was asking me to write the Eastern mysticism version with him, for him, as a ghostwriter. It was never very clear. And that would have been a year and a half to 2 years of my life.
Okay.
And I woke up one morning perfectly clear that the right thing to do was to say no to that.
Hmm.
Um, break the news to my wife that I was saying no to that, because there was significant pay that came with that, and
Hmm.
tell her I'm going to work on my own book, because if I don't do it now, I'm going to be like my father in my 70s,
Yeah.
struggling to do it. And it also gave me time to work with my father. So I spent a couple years, both writing or getting together my concepts for my own book and getting people to review that, but also just sitting on Zoom or in the office with my father, hearing his perspectives on God and life and the meaning of life and the universe and the cosmos. I would pick up my computer and show you the stacks of books he gave me, things I had
Wow.
no interest in reading, um, about physics and the cosmos and evolution, and stuff I would skim. But he's no,
Hmm.
no, no, and yet all meticulously highlighted and everything. He said, if you're going to write this book with me, you got to get up to speed on this stuff. So I did my best. I spent a lot of time interviewing him, and those things I was reading for him, they were sparking all sorts of ideas in my head related to what I wanted to write. Reading some things for this Indian CEO before turning him down also got me thinking about things like reincarnation and time. So it all kind of came together when I sat down to outline my book. I immediately had a premise that I loved. Um, I had never written fiction before, and I'd always wondered how people do it. So I
Hmm.
read a book on outline, a workbook, and treatise on outlining your novel.
Okay.
I set up a Miro board. I don't know if you know Miro, where I had all of K.M. Weiland, I think is her name. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right,
Okay.
but
No, I haven't heard of it.
all of her steps of outlining a novel, I put it all into a Miro board so that,
Okay.
because I knew I wasn't going to do this just once. And I started filling in the template, and the book came to life before my eyes. So
Mm.
that's how I got here. And I finally got that done, got that published. It's probably the last piece of fiction my father will ever read, because
Hmm.
he's really degenerating now, unfortunately. And so he read it, and my mom and my father called me to their house one day, and they said, "David, like, where did that come from? I didn't know you had that in you. Like,
Oh,
where
wow.
did that story come from?" And I got to tell my father, so much of it came from what you gave me,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So I think I was saying before we started, like, this other novel that I've just drafted as sort of my second novel,
Hmm.
be a fictional, provide a fictional context for sharing my father's perspectives on God and creator and life and universe, um, and it's a chance for me to, like, do justice to what he's trying to give to the world.
Yeah.
So it's been a tremendous time,
Mm.
and I'm a happy, fulfilled person because
Yeah,
of
of
all that
course.
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, and was your dad, I guess, able to accept that, you took all these things that he had talked about, but put it in a form that was true to you and how you wanted to express all these things? Or what was his reaction to
Yeah,
that?
when I did the outlining for this one, my father's been working with a co-editor, co-writer, for many of the years that he was working on his book. So we sat together in his apartment, and outlined this story,
Mhm.
including coming up with characters and everything else. So his fingerprints are all over it.
Yeah.
Nancy, the co-editor, her fingerprints are all over it. They may not recognize that,
Okay.
because a lot of his stuff is buried behind. I had to write a really compelling story, and I tried to make it, YA friendly, if not YA,
Yes.
because I think people need to hear what he is taking away from a very um, academic, scholarly life, both as a scientist and as a person, with religious inclinations,
Yes.
really straddling both. So, those are. It's a gift to be able to sit, especially with your own father, and
Of
just hear
course.
perspectives from somebody who's been able to put pieces together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so now about blending the genres, how did you go about that? Did you find it daunting? Did you find that the story just lended itself so naturally to all the genres that you added in?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a bit about the story without
Sure.
spoilers, because it's full of. There's all sorts of spoilers I could give you. I'm going to try to avoid.
Yes, let's try to keep it spoiler free.
As a medical mystery, it's about a guy, Rafi, who is a young up and coming lawyer who is at the beginning of the book awakening from a coma, and
Mhm.
he's in what's called a minimally conscious state. So he's aware of his surroundings, he's thinking, but he's unable to interact with the world around him,
Mhm.
which includes his mother by his bedside and doctors because he's in a hospital. So while he's in this state, he's beginning to experience these visions or episodes where he is, in the mind of somebody experiencing something from history,
Mm.
generally speaking, something tragic, something calamitous, and he's experiencing it as if he's them. And he's
Okay.
sort of like, as these episodes pass, he's waking up going like, what the hell was that?
Hmm.
Wondering if he's losing his mind. So that's the medical mysteries. What's going on with Rafi? What's going on in his brain?
Yeah.
It turns into a bit of a crime drama.
Okay.
Um, and I don't want to give away much more about that. But these episodes were my chances to create vignettes of
Yeah.
historical fiction,
That's fun.
which is my favorite genre. So I got
Okay.
to write a bit about Vesuvius erupting and
Mm,
the fall of Jerusalem in 70 CE, and all
yeah.
sorts of cool things like that, through different characters' perspectives. Because each time Rafi's in one of those experiences, he's someone other than himself telling the story.
That's right.
So I've described it. I know I'm being long-winded a bit, but
No, no, it's good that we want to hear the story behind the story. This is like what this whole show is about, just kind
okay.
of digging into your brain. And so feel free to
Yeah.
talk as much
So
as you want.
the breakfast cereal Lucky Charms, like one of my
Yes.
favorites as a kid. So
Okay.
the you got the bits that nobody likes as much as the marshmallows. So for
Hmm.
me, like in my novel, um, the uh, the vignettes, the historical fiction little marshmallows are the
Okay.
treats that I hope people are looking forward to as they go through the book. As much as the rest of the book is really cool and interesting,
Yes.
I think the fun is in those little treats.
Well, that's fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I do have my own copy here, which I got from you when I first met you. We were both two authors giving, talks on our books, and then I had to buy it, especially the historical fiction bits. So I'm really looking forward to reading those, like the little marshmallows that you put in. That's a really cool way of explaining it.
Yeah, and I didn't know, like, you've done this and you've done it for a first time at some point in your life. You're
Hmm.
putting so much of yourself on the page, and
Hmm.
for a long time, you're not knowing whether people are going to like it,
Yes.
and what they're going to think about it, and are they going to at least be kind when they give me feedback.
Yeah.
So, I'm now very confident that anyone who reads the book is going to enjoy the book.
Okay.
Um, it's because of the setup for the story. It's a little bit of like figuring out what this is before it starts
Hmm.
being what it is.
Hmm.
Because Rafi's in a confused state, not understanding what's happening to him. So is the reader
Yes.
in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so. Oh, wait, we got a question here. So, how daunting was the research of each of the historical fiction pieces? Especially if they're different time and eras. Are they different eras?
Yeah. It was really more a process of discovery. It didn't feel like research. Like I was trying to figure out, okay, so, and I know Rafi's lineage to some degree where the reader doesn't. So I was trying to think, with that lineage, what are some of the events in history that his ancestors might have been exposed to? Then
Mm,
I'd go looking and I'd find one, during the Black Plague in the 1300s. And I'd go, oh my God, that, like, what a great setting for one of these vignettes. And even, the eruption of Vesuvius. Who doesn't love Pompeii and stories of Pompeii? But there
yeah.
were other towns affected by the eruption. So I
Mhm.
set my vignette not in Pompeii, but in Stabia, which was a little Roman villa that was also wiped out in the eruption. And so it was that, and every time I went looking, there was something really cool that I was able to find. There's a scene that takes place in a barn in England. I forget the century. Um, and I wanted it to be a mighty storm. The name of that little vignette is A Mighty Storm.
Ooh.
So I went looking, and sure enough, there was an unprecedented storm that year that went all through the night and destroyed everything. And like, it's just so, yeah. Part of the fun of this was just learning about things, and I'm sure you've had this experience where the universe starts to tell you your story after a while.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the characters start waking you up in the middle of the night and saying, no, no, like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done this. And
Yeah.
those kinds of things. Yeah.
Well, thankfully, I don't get woken up in the middle of the day, but definitely a lot of that happens when I'm driving because I do a lot of
Oh,
driving. I live, in the country, far from towns and cities, and so yeah, that's when I start arguing with my characters and they start popping up.
it sounds like, again, I forget the Will Ferrell movie,
Okay.
where he's an author and his characters come to life.
Oh, yes. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I
Like,
can't.
as a
Yeah.
non, like before you've written any fiction, you watch that and go, okay, like that's cool. And
Yeah.
then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I know where that came from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. No, that's it's a lot of fun. And historical research is kind of like they're fun little rabbit holes that you can get lost in pretty quickly. Did you find that was the case for you that, let's say you picked the Black Plague era and you just kept
Yeah.
researching. Did you find you had to stop yourself at some point and be like, okay, let's get back on track?
Well, again, like there's so much more that than what you put on the page. And like
Hmm.
that's part of telling a good story, is that like there's depth to it. I've been told, my characters have a lot of depth to them. And it's because I did the work of really getting to know their backgrounds. And same with these historical scenes where you want to put everything down.
Yeah.
But in terms of the frame for my story, I don't have the luxury of spending too long in somebody's head experiencing what they're experiencing. It wouldn't fit what the story is.
Yeah.
So you got to make your choices. So the rabbit holes are definitely there.
Hmm.
A different kind of rabbit hole. When my oldest daughter, I've got 3 daughters, and by the way, a lot of the reason I wrote a book was to show them that you can just at some point in your life stop everything and do something that you were meant to do, you were put on the earth to do. So
Hmm.
I said, I'm going to write a book, and then I had one ready a few months later. Um, but my oldest daughter read draft number 1 or draft number 2, and there was a character in there, a clinical psychologist named Dr. Hedayat, an
Oh,
Indian man.
okay.
And he was just like, you drop some characters on the page so that they exist and they can play their little part in the story. She
Yeah.
said, I want to know all about that guy. Like,
Oh.
tell me more about him. So I went researching his background. Of course, he's a fictional character. And I came up with all these insights about like what, as it turns out, a gay man in India at the time that he was studying for engineering before switching to medicine, like what the barriers would have been for him and how we would have come to America. So like there were all sorts of rabbit holes just kind of opening up as you poked at things. And I'm so thankful to her for telling me to do that, because like otherwise he's this two-dimensional,
Yeah.
set piece instead of being an important character in the story.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Well, I guess there's a good thing to getting our families to read it because they know us best, right? And so and maybe sometimes they're the best ones to push us to break those barriers a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have some themes here about identity and healing. So how does Rafi's journey challenge or redefine what it means to come of age, not even just through his own life, but through ancestral connections and, as you said, those little historical fiction vignettes.
Yeah, he's got some hangups, this guy. Nice guy, smart guy, driven, very suffocated by his mother.
Hmm.
And for anyone who knows me, that's not based on me. That any
I'm glad to hear
resemblance, any resemblance is strictly coincidental. So he's really stifled by his mother, and that's because there's something, there's a phobia he has, which is related to these episodes he's later having. No connection is obvious at the beginning. So he's really been held back by his mother and by these fears. And the fears are so deep rooted that he doesn't even know that that's what's been holding him back. So a lot of the story for Rafi is finding out that, I'm not a broken person.
Hmm.
I've got some quirks. I've got some fears, and they're there for a reason. They're part of my programming. And I've just got to learn to be a better version of myself that can cope with those things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's other characters in the story that are helping him through that. But I fast forwarded at the end of the story to see Rafi 4 years after this all happened to him. And I wanted to show like the application of the things he learned
Okay.
in terms of where he ended. So I never thought of it as sort of coming of age, but it's definitely about identity. Discovering your identity is a big element of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Which another reason I went down this path of storytelling was because during the pandemic, like so many people did, I started exploring my own ancestry and my own DNA, and digging into like the families in Eastern Europe in the 1800s that are my family. And I really wanted to meet them. So that was another driver for this story, is like, if I could go back and see these people, what are
Oh,
they up to? What's their life like? Yeah. The other, I don't want to forget to mention, I think I mentioned this when we spoke at the
sure.
winery.
Mhm.
Bill Bryson, who's one of my favorite authors,
Yes.
and A Complete History of Everything, which is the best book he's written. I think I can say that definitively.
Okay.
He opens it by congratulating the reader on reading his book. Why am I congratulating you? Because in order for you to be holding this book in your hand, every one of your ancestors, going back to the primordial ooze, had to have survived at least to the age of procreation,
Mm.
which makes your existence very special, and congratulation worthy. And that's such a fascinating thought, because sort of a corollary to that is that if you went back to any point in history, you would have an ancestor who was alive at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a tiny little 3-cell organ swimming around in the ooze, or some whenever. So again, a big part of this story is knowing that there's always somebody who contributed to your existence in some way.
Mm. That's a
That
really neat way of thinking of it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
blew my mind, and I wanted to tell a story that shared some of the implications of that.
for sure. I'm curious, did your writing Cracking Complexity, and because that's your nonfiction work, did some of that kind of make its way into Traceback in terms of I don't know what you were looking at in that book, what you were trying to share, and
Yeah,
did it
I
pages?
I'm not a person who reads business books. I never was a person who reads business books. Totally disinterested in business in general. Ended
Mm-hmm.
up in business with a partner, doing some great work, but never thought of it as business.
Yeah.
And so at some point, we had been doing what we were doing for about 18 years, and said, let's write a book about cracking complexity.
Okay.
But I didn't want to write it as a business book. So there's a lot of me, a lot of my personality in the way we describe the lessons of cracking complexity.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an entertaining book. I enjoyed writing it. People have told me they enjoyed reading it. Very
Okay.
accessible. So I think I found my voice to some degree. Like I found my
Mm-hmm.
voice blogging. Then I found my voice a little bit more in cracking complexity. And the process of getting that book written opened
Mm-hmm.
my eyes. Although, as it turns out, getting nonfiction published is an entire different universe from getting fiction
I'm
published.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I was starting from scratch, even though I had a publicist and an agent and a publishing house and everything else in the old world. None of
Yeah.
that mattered as I went
Mm-hmm.
into this world. So I'd say, yeah, voice and the confidence, like to know that I could write something interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting that you said none of that mattered because your heart was completely poured into this. And I guess it's interesting that when we have these passion projects and our heart's completely in it, that none of those logistics to a sense matters because it's piece like a huge piece of us just wanting to reach others.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's, I would say to anyone, like, forget whether you want to write fiction or whether you want to paint or whether you want to dance or whatever it is. There comes a point in your life when you just have to do it,
Mhm.
and you can't wait until your body or your mind starts to go before you do that.
Yeah.
Um, you, and you can't wait until the circumstances are perfect. There's a gap in your schedule. Like you just gotta force it.
Yes.
And you're put on the earth in the world to do something. And by the time you're, deep into your career, you probably know what that is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's possible it's not what you're doing. So it's not like you can just necessarily walk away from the income or anything else, but you can do things like I decided 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I was just going to start blogging and, being silly in my Facebook posts and things like that,
Yeah.
because I had to find my voice. And if I waited, I wouldn't have my voice when it was time to write my book.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a really good, yeah, that's it. You're just taking imperfect steps, which build momentum toward what you know is, yeah, like for you, it's this. So,
Exactly. And many more, I hope.
yes, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, no, I hope so too. Um, would you say that Traceback is a thriller to some extent? Because
I
it seems like it
wouldn't.
has a lot of thrilling aspects.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon, went all out in terms of the advertising because I published with Amazon. The
Okay.
cover production, like they played into the thriller aspect of it, and I was like, oh, I thought it was a romance. Like my favorite part of the book is the romance.
Okay.
And again, I don't want to spoil things, but Rafi's in this coma. Um, by definition, he's not in the middle of a romantic entanglement until he's out of it.
Mhm.
But the night before this accident happened that put him in a coma, that's when he met the love of his life. And he was actually meeting her for the second time. But part of my original title for the book was Latency, because I really like Rafi is a latent character.
Mhm.
Um, and this romance was a latent romance. And what's going on in the story itself also has to do with latency.
Mhm.
Um, but I love the idea of a latent romance, and I couldn't think of many examples of having read or seen movies where literally this like love of your life moment comes at exactly the wrong time,
Mm.
and then it's got to prove itself,
Yes.
that it's still there when it's time.
Yes.
So yeah, so I was thinking, okay, I think it's a beautiful romance. I love the historical fiction. I
Mhm.
guess it's a medical mystery. And
Yes.
then, yeah, I guess there are thrilling moments in the sense of a thriller.
Mhm.
But I don't think of it that way. And when people were asking me, sorry, Leah, because I am rambling again,
No, it's
um,
okay.
what's the genre? I literally sat there going, you tell me. Like,
Okay,
and
yeah.
I interviewed the people who read the book, and they said, "Oh, I see the problem." Yeah, I guess I would say medical mystery. The one person who I think came closest to getting it right,
Okay.
he called it a puzzle box.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I love that too. Just because there is a coherent story going on, the
Yeah.
pieces are all there, and you're putting it together at the same time that the characters are putting it together. So puzzle
Mhm.
box works for me as well. Yeah,
Wow, I can't wait to read that. I love conundrums. I love mysteries and little puzzles and
yeah.
so that is so cool.
For me, it's movies like I'm trying to think of the examples: Big Fish, Finding
Okay.
Neverland, like where there is a big coming together payoff. Everything made sense when you get to the end. Um,
Yes.
I love that. So if I set out to write a genre, it was that I wanted something that felt that um,
Mm.
satisfying at the end.
For sure. Now you said that you interview your readers and ask them like what did they get out of it? But is there one message or one thought or a feeling that you want them to take away after reading your book? That
I
you hope
want.
that they do?
I mean, I've had the people tell me like it's such a tidy story. It's so like there's pieces all over the place, and they just come together and fit together beautifully.
Mm.
I poured my heart into what's I guess the epilogue, because I really when I did have my agent from the old world read my book, the one thing he told me is like your characters are too noble. You got to have like the bad guy stands out because they're the only person with with flaws. You got
Okay.
to make everybody flawed. So I want people to feel the way I feel with you right now, Leah, which is like I'm sitting and having a conversation with you and getting to know
Mhm.
you, and you're getting to know me. I want people to feel like that with the characters, that they got to spend time with people they like, who are
Yes.
really interesting, even if they're flawed. And unfortunately, that means everybody who's asking for a sequel wants it to be the same set of characters. I'm like, well, no, that's not the sequel I'm planning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay. So will there be any kind of thread that ties them together?
yeah, probably more on the antagonist side than the protagonist side.
Oh, that's gonna be
Because I'm
exciting.
so happy with how Rafi's story ended that I
Yeah.
don't want to bother the guy. Like, he went through such a hard time.
You already went through so
I
much in the
don't
first
want
one.
to drag him out of retirement, put him back into the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the challenge is going to be, finding another set of characters, and Rafi may make an appearance, etc. But like, just I fell in love with the characters. I want to spend time with the same characters.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's better to find a new story and a new cast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's really exciting. So that feedback that you got about your characters being too noble, did you act I didn't quite understand. Did you give them flaws after you got that feedback? Or you're just like, no, I really like that they are noble. I mean, they can make mistakes here and there, but it's nice to just, have people who have a very giving, like,
Yeah.
they're just good. Yeah.
I did a prologue after that feedback
Okay.
to put in some backstory for a few of the characters, including Rafi and his love interest Pina.
Okay.
Um, and in the backstory for Rafi and Pina, I made Rafi's mother look so horrible that, when whoever read it for the first time said, "Wow, I hate her."
Mm,
So good. I'm glad you hate her, because
yeah.
that's what I was supposed to do. And the other character, who later on you'll like less, I made her very empathetic,
Okay.
with that beginning. And then I found places like Rafi's father, like, definitely there's no I amped up his flaws.
Okay.
um, I had the parents in a very big fight, a very angry fight. I gave them all reasons for how they behave, that are understandable but not revealed until the end.
Mhm.
And some of the characters in the Lucky Charm marshmallows, are behaving very badly. They're not
Mm.
always, they're not always empathetic characters.
No.
So yeah, I feel like I did what he told me,
Okay.
and I feel like this is one comment I want to make. I don't know about your experience with this, but when I was in my previous career, I was facilitating, and I always felt like if there's a better facilitator on earth, I've never met the person. As you get to know me, like, I don't lack for confidence, but I'm a very good facilitator.
Okay.
And if anyone criticized something I did, I was so offended.
Mm.
So as I entered this world, and of course you're supposed to be like, critique is a gift, say thank you, etc. You couldn't do it. Just like, I found it hurt. But
Yes.
when I entered this world and I wrote my first draft and then sent it to 5 people, whatever the number was, I didn't know how I would respond.
Mm.
But I really felt that every bit of feedback I got was a gift.
Yes.
Um, and never ever took offense. And I was so surprised, pleasantly surprised by that. And I
Mhm.
can point to so many things in the story that came as the result of somebody offering me the gift of reading my book and then caring enough to tell me how it could be made better.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was a big learning for me. And I'm trying to, tell other people in my life, you know, how valuable that can be if you come in with the right mindset,
for
and
sure.
really listen to feedback,
Yeah.
uh, but not about my facilitating.
So you'll listen to feedback as long as it doesn't touch that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe that wall of, that pride will come down, you never know.
Yeah, the good news is when you're perfect, nobody critiques you. So,
Ah,
but funny story. When you and I were at the winery about to do
yeah.
it took every ounce of strength not to stand up and get the group seated and ready for the session was about to start.
Oh,
Because that's often on me to get those kinds of things going.
yeah.
Anyways,
Well, that's really cool.
yeah.
So your second book, you're working on it. Do you have, like a date that you're hoping to get it out or?
Well, so literally for my father's book,
Mhm.
um, I am very impatient to be able to put something in his hands
For
that
sure.
he recognizes as including his thoughts and his beliefs. If you read Traceback, in both the acknowledgement at the beginning and the dedication, no, vice versa, dedication at the beginning, like I mentioned my father, because
Yeah.
it has meant so much to me to really get to know him over the last few years.
Mhm.
And again, he read that and he understood, because it was a year and a half ago or something, that like this book was inspired by and populated with thoughts from you, Dad.
Mm.
And so for this book, which is much more literally a product of his thinking,
Yeah.
I want to have it published as quickly as I can, even if it's 10 copies, so I can put a copy in his hand and get the recognition that like his story has been told,
Yes.
his perspectives have been shared. So if anyone of my sisters are listening right now and are supposed to be reviewing the book,
Oh.
I'm waiting for your feedback. But I am in a bit of a hurry for that. I'm in no hurry for a sequel to Trace Back. As
Yeah.
you know, it's one thing to like publish a book that people love. It's another thing for people to find the book in
Yes, for
an
sure.
overwhelming, noisy universe. So I would like to build an audience for Traceback and build some demand for the sequel before I really pour myself into that.
Okay.
And I also sort of set into this adventure wanting to try all sorts of different genres. So
Mm.
other concepts, like a book called Tales from the Dog Park,
Oh,
because as I've taken my dog to dog parks, you meet, especially the part of town I live in, many retirees with incredible stories and histories.
yes.
Um, a guy who used to work security for the banks and dealt with like armed robberies. A woman who emigrated from Hungary, born during the war, father in internment camps.
Hmm.
Just these amazing stories, and I think Tales from the Dog Park. To get to know sort of the person and the dog and have little vignettes from them about their life and what brought them together with their dog, with photos and everything else,
Oh, I love
would be
that.
a really fun project, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I got ideas like that are running around in my head, and I plan to get to all of them because I started early enough to have time to
Yeah.
get to all of them. Yeah,
And good for you. Good for you that you took hold of the reins and decided this is what I'm going to do with my life. And you just went all in. So, yeah, it's
yeah.
very inspiring yeah, it's never too late to do the dream that you dream of doing, well,
Except
especially books.
except
So,
when it is too late. That's
when it is too late.
yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah, I
right.
mean, like life is so fleeting. Like, why wait if there's a way that you can get at it? Just like you put it after I, shared my thoughts on that, is like, even if it's a messy start, just like push yourself to take those first few steps.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, David, for coming on, sharing about Traceback, um, the wonderful story about you and your father and how that's going to culminate in the next release, and also cracking complexity for those who like business. Why not and go take a look and read it?
It's there, Captain
Yeah, for
Complexity
sure.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
this
the,
book.
the father, sorry, the father book is going to be called
Oh yes.
The Music of Heaven. Um,
Oh.
which is a quote from Hildegard of Bingen, who's another historical figure. If you've never heard of her, Leah, I'm talking to you specifically.
Okay.
Saint Hildegard.
Okay.
Just Google her and like look a little bit about her. She's the most fascinating character from the early 1100s. Lived at the time of the Templars, rubbed elbows with popes and kings,
Yeah.
um, but was a mystic, like an amazing woman. And again, one of these people I never would have discovered if I wasn't off trying to write stories.
So cool. Okay, I'm definitely gonna look her up for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for that note.
Sorry, you were in wrap up mode and I interrupted you. Go for
Oh,
it.
no, no,
Yeah.
it's okay. I'm glad you told me because I really, really want to look her up now. That's an amazing, and for whoever else likes history like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, I am gonna wrap up. Thank you again for coming on. This is Traceback. Definitely go get it. Um, sounds thrilling. I'm really looking forward to getting into my copy, hopefully before Christmas. That's what I'm aiming for.
That
So
would be awesome. And I'd love to hear what you think of it because
yes, for sure.
I'm loving what each person takes uniquely from what you write.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we are going to say bye to everyone. Thank you for being on with us.
You're
Bye.
welcome and bye.